Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the DX Mentor. Details about the upcoming VP2V DXpedition to the British Virgin Islands by our guests. I'm Bill, AJ8B. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. We have a back catalog covering many aspects of DX in both podcast and YouTube format. Please check us out. If you like what you find, please subscribe, like, and share to always be notified about upcoming events. Another way to keep in touch and to see what we're up to is via the DX Mentor Facebook page. I will be posting about upcoming podcasts as well as other DX events, so please follow us. You can check the show notes for any of the information that we'll be discussing today. So, hey, why don't you tune in with me as Joe, WAGEX, and I discuss this DXpedition with him. Well, good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the DX Mentor podcast. Joe and I are really excited. We're pumped for this one. We got two great guys that are going to be with us tonight. We're excited, and we don't know where this is going to go tonight. We may end up talking about Cleveland and Ohio. We may end up talking about the British Virgin Islands. I don't know, but I'm going to read a little bit about what caught our attention. From August 8th to the 11th, the British Virgin Islands VP2V will be visited by the brothers KK4lWR Andy and KD8RTT Tony. This is their first DXpedition, and again, it's August 9th to the 11th in the Tortola, British Virgin Islands. And they'll be VP2V stroke KK4IWR and VP2V stroke KD8RTT. Andy says, quote, that they're both big travelers and wanted to try a weekend on the air somewhere exotic, but also not getting over their heads. That sounds very, very reasonable to me. They decided to consider someplace they had been before, so it was easy to get to and it had infrastructure. And then I won't read the rest. We're going to talk about there's something about a wedding and some other stuff, but we'll touch on. But so we do have us with it tonight. Then we have Tony KD8RTT, we have Andy KK4lWR, and as always, we have Joe WAGEX. So Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and then hand it off.
Well, thanks, Bill, and welcome to our podcast, guys. I started as a teenager as an SWO, was an SWO for several years, got my technician class license, went crazy over 6 meters, worked some DX back then on Into the Caribbean, excuse me, was absolutely hooked on DXing. So over the years, like most of us, I've upgraded. Live out in Southwest Ohio, out here on 28 acres, and I've got nice antenna farm on the air just about every day. I really love amateur radio. So been on 62 DXpeditions, some big, some small. I was on leaders on some. Other times I was just a follower. So Tony, tell us a little bit about you. How'd you get started?
Yeah, so I got into ham radio my senior year of high school, actually, in 2012, um, through electronics. So I started with electronics in middle school, really interested in audio, guitar effects, that kind of thing. Kind of led to my interest into electrical engineering, which is what I originally or eventually went to college for. But then kind of happened across ham radio just from electronics hobbyist stuff I found. I always kind of had an interest in radio and found that. And then just kind of dove in head first, got my license on my own. Didn't have any family who were hams. Knew of a couple people who were, but not super close to them in order, that they got me into it or anything. So yeah, kind of figured it out on my own. Senior year of high school, went off to college and studied electrical engineering and got really into the collegiate amateur radio space with my college club at Rose-Hulman, and then also in grad school at Ohio University. And from there, I've just been doing ham radio as much as I can, all sorts of stuff, all different parts of the hobby, satellites to, digital, some CW, HF, all over the place. So I've just really enjoyed experimenting with it, playing around with it and exploring.
And that whole college thing's pretty big now, isn't it?
Yeah, so actually Andy and I are both the co-advisors for the ARRL's Collegiate Amateur Radio Program,
Oh,
which is something we kind of fell into a few years ago when it started as an initiative. So we've been supporting that every year with activities at Dayton and a monthly Zoom call, et cetera. So that's the other big thing you could always talk to Andy and me about, our collegiate amateur radio. We're both pretty passionate about it, and that's something we're constantly involved with still, even though now we're 10 years out of college.
well,
Plus.
I made a note. We're going to come back to that.
Yeah, yep.
So, Andy, what about you?
So I was first exposed to amateur radio and Radio Merit Badge in the Scouts. Didn't really do much with it after Radio Merit Badge or anything. Didn't get licensed. We had a scout leader who was a ham, and he did Radio Merit Badge with me, and I thought it was interesting, but sort of left it at that. And it was actually Tony that got me into it. When I moved from Ohio to Florida for graduate school, we had to drive my car down from Ohio. And Tony's like, "Do you mind if I stick a mag mount antenna on the roof?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. We have like 16 hours to drive, no problem." Well, we hit Georgia, and all of a sudden in the mountains, Tony made a contact with a gentleman in one of those fire watchtowers on 2 meters on the simplex frequency. And we talked to the guy for what, 50 miles, something like that, Tony? It was a good like hour long QSO, just sort of, you know, hanging out, seeing how things were going. What was cool is how he made contact on like the national calling frequency, and then he QS wide somewhere else to free up the calling frequency and all that. And he was doing it from a little handy talkie, on the road. And that really, sparked my interest. And that fall, the Gator Amateur Radio Club at the University of Florida was offering what they call the Tech Day, where you do your technician license and all that. And Tony said, "No, no, no, you can do more than that. You're an electrical engineer. You can figure this out. Do your general and technician on the same day." So I took his advice. I went to the review session just to kind of learn the laws essentially. But I was technically strong enough and was able to pass my tech in general that day. And I actually met a good friend of mine who sort of became my amateur radio mentor, Jay Gartlett's AA4FL. He's big into DXing and all. He actually went on the Bonneba T33 Alpha DXpedition, what, about 8-10 years ago now?
Yeah.
And he did that while I was a student there, and that was my first sort of like exposure to DXing. But we had a great station with a Flex 5000A, which 10 years ago was an impressive rig. I now run a Flex at home now, as does Tony. So we've sort of grown up in that vein with the software-defined radio and all that. But that sort of got us started. And like Tony said, we were both in college when the sort of movement happened around college students, and sort of fell into it. And actually, it was at Orlando Hamcation. Jay had registered for hey, we should do just like a college meetup thing, and it sort of snowballed from there. And now I'm very much involved with the ARRL. I'm the vice director for the Southeastern Division, and I volunteer a lot of time for the collegiate work. So Tony and I also run a contest at the beginning of October for college students, the Collegiate QSO Party. So we've been really making that a passion of ours to look at the next generation of the hobby. And like I said, we both like to travel. We're both Eagle Scouts. We both sort of have that technical mindset. So a good challenge of traveling somewhere new. I think we're both of the mindset, have passport, will travel. I've been to Europe a whole bunch. Tony did a trip to Peru, was it a couple of years ago?
Peru, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
like I've spent a lot of time in France this year, probably 3 months for work and stuff. So, getting out and getting on the air just sound like fun.
Wow. Well done.
Great.
Yeah, we will definitely follow up with a podcast on the college thing. I'd love to do that. Never occurred to me to do that, and yet the more I read about it, I thought this is something we need to expose people to. So when you get back, maybe we'll do a combined. Let's debrief on and we'll do it before you get married, because you'll have no time after that. So.
Yeah.
You brought to mind a story when I went. I was going for my advanced, and I thought, well, you know what? I'll take the extra and at least get a look at it. So I got the general and advanced, and I got and I got to the extra. I didn't quite get it that day, but a few weeks, I guess it was a month later, I did pass the extra, and then I got a letter from the FCC, and it said, "We gave you the wrong advanced class test, because we thought you were licensed as a novice, but you weren't at the time. So I had to go take a novice to get my extra." And I was sweating. I still have the letter. I was sweating bullets. I thought, how embarrassed, because I had a really competitive K1FJ was my roommate. I thought, how embarrassed would it be if we're both engineering students, and I flunked the novice, so I can't get my extra. This is a nightmare, man. So it didn't happen, but oh my God, that comes back. So you start telling that story, and I thought, well, so do you guys consider yourself DXers, or just general purpose, whatever it is, you'll jump into it?
Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself a DXer. It's something I have interest in. The DXpeditions are something I have a ton of interest in doing the far and wide, really roughing it ones, that's something I'd really love to do. But for me, it's outside of our college stations were pretty well equipped, but through my 20s living in apartments and that sort of thing, I just didn't have a station that made me really competitive in that space. So I kind of focused a lot more in roving, some VHF roving, a lot of satellite roving, and then even some of the Kansas QSO Party roving, some of those types of events where it's gotten me out doing something where I can be kind of competitive and have fun. But now that, like Andy said, we've got flex stations, still pretty modest antennas and stuff. The DX part is starting to become more and more, of a reality for us to try to work and get involved in. So I think I'm heading in that direction.
So what about you, Andy? Did you take a radio to France, or did you have to?
So I did. I am a big fan of the QRP Labs radio. So I actually take a couple of QMXs with me when I travel to France, and I have activated actually a POTA while I was over in France. There was one not too far from where I was staying, so I was doing that. I was in Italy actually a few years ago for another work project for a month, and I did a POTA there as well. So, yeah, I tend to take a QMX with me pretty much wherever I go. I have a little 4 amp hour battery, I have a little key, and then it plugs into my laptop as well. So if I want to do FT8, and now the QMXs do single sideband. So, I mean, I got pretty much a full featured, SDR in my pocket, and that's pretty much standard loadout now whenever I travel.
Isn't the technology crazy on this QMX? Yeah. It's just nuts. It's really nuts. Joe and I are part of the group that hosts the DX forum at Hamvention. And 2 years ago, we were done, and we had a lot of people. It wasn't packed, but we had a lot of people. And I left, and it turned out it was kind of chilly that morning. I realized, I left my jacket in there, so I go back in. Well, the presentation after us was POTA. And I mean, there were people hanging from the rafters. There were people in the doorways. They were sitting in the aisles. I couldn't believe it. I thought I got to check into this because we had K4SWL. I don't know if you know Thomas or not.
Yeah,
we had him on I think last year, and he was so entertaining. But I just couldn't believe how big this was. And then when you combine DX and POTA, it's pretty darn cool. You get the best of both.
I'm pretty active, and over here to my left, you guys can't see, but to my left here, I've got a packet cluster running. So whenever I see, if I'm on 30 meters, for example, and I see a spot for a POTA or a SOTA, I always hit those guys. Yeah, because I know they're looking for 10 or 15 cues before they move on, or they may stay there all day, but they need a certain amount of cues to make it official, I guess.
Yeah. So what do your logistics in the British Virgin Islands? What does that look like? Are you on the beach? Are you in a hotel or?
So we got an Airbnb rental that's kind of hilltop, I guess mountaintop, with a little bit of a yard, kind of overlooks the water pretty nicely, it looks like. But the most important thing to me was that we had enough space to put up some antennas. Nothing extravagant, but enough space that we weren't up against people, bothering people, or that sort of thing. So went pretty simple in that regard.
Andy, do you have any expectations? I mean, if we get together in 2 months and I say, hey, was this a successful trip or not? And you'll say yes or no based on what?
I mean, if we could make, contacts period, I mean, that's my bar for success right now. Success right now, because I have 124 countries on DXCC. I don't have VP2V, so I'd like to be able to work myself from the flex or work Tony from remote from my flex back in the States. So I mean, if I could make that happen, that'd be great. But yeah, there's a lot of logistics that we've learned that go into this. Getting our Bahamian license and relying on the U.S. Postal Service was definitely, or not Bahamian, sorry, BVI license, the British Virgin Islands license. They still, I don't think, have received our letters, but I reached out to them and they've been super great over email and got us our call signs and all that stuff. I actually received from them today the formal paperwork, sort of thing, but they have not yet received mine. And I don't think they've received Tony's yet either. But just the logistics of that, bringing the radios, bringing the antenna. Probably, I think our greatest logistic is our 6-meter challenge, because if you look at club log for VP2V, it seems like everybody needs it on 6 meters because no one in their right mind goes to the Caribbean in the summer for a multitude of reasons: hurricanes, heat, we maybe not are in our right minds. We'll be on the island, and so we want to do some serious 6 meter work. And Tony had a bit of a crazy idea about that.
Yeah, so we've seen there's tons of designs for 6 meter yagis. I mean, it's nothing special, nothing huge, but we wanted to make one that we could fit in our regular care or checked bags. So part of the logistics is we're flying there, American Airlines, planning to check a bag each, plus a couple carry-ons, and that's how we're getting everything there. So we wanted a 6 meter antenna that we could fit in a checked bag. And have built and have tested a little bit a 3-element 6 meter Yagi that uses telescopic whips, so that it all can fit nicely in the checked bag. So 6 meters will be if we get a lot of contacts at 6 meters, that's a major success point. But getting this antenna up and making a bunch of contacts would be even better. Of course, have a backup simple dipole, but that's something we're really working is the 6 meter Yagi.
Wow.
Yes.
Any suggestions, Joe, from all the operating you've done in the Caribbean?
Well, it seems like you guys have already done what I always highly recommend. Test everything out before you go. Because if it does not work at home, it won't work in the Virgin Islands. So yeah, that's
And there's a funny story about testing this that Tony conveniently left out. I'll share a photo here. If I can get some share privileges, I'll share it. But one of the other hats that Tony and I wear is we help out with Yoda Camp. So Yoda's Youth on the Air, and they did a big camp over in Denver this year. And I'll throw this picture up there. This was us testing that beam. So you can see our 6 meter beam. It collapses down to 24 inches overall length. It's under 3 pounds. Lots of stuff like that. It's great. But the antenna in the background might be familiar to some hams. Maybe a large antenna setup in Denver.
Fort Collins.
Or yeah. That's that's WWVB in the background.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the antenna for that, and you can actually see the sort of tuning building down there, which we got to go check out. But that was one of the cool stops, and we were getting on the air from WWVB and WWV while we were out there, and that was super cool. And that's where we tested out. So the antenna is 3D printed, and we use we designed our own sort of mast that could collapse down,
Or
and then
boom,
and then we have just these elements that you can extend to whatever. So in theory, we could do 2 meters, we could do 10 meters, and we could do 6 meters with the elements we've got,
So
just by adjusting spacing.
Are you taking orders for this, or are you going to wait till you get back?
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I think we've been surprised how well it's worked so far. I think how it will withstand even 4 days of constant use in the air with the wind and stuff. We'll see, but we're hopeful.
Yeah. One of the favorite stories I kid Joe about. Joe, are you taking barrel connectors with you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Joe, you want to share your barrel connector story?
So several years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago, I was part of a Midway team, Midway Island out in the Pacific. So we organized all of our antennas, all the radios, the laptops. You guys are taking 2 stations, but we had 10 or whatever. So it just complicates everything. So we had all the coax, had a mile of coax, and we had to leave 2 fellows back in Honolulu because our charter plane was full. So these 2 guys said they would stay, they would come on tomorrow's flight. So we get there, and I'm pretty good in the details, but somehow I missed all the barrel connectors. We didn't have one damn barrel connector. So we wrote back to phoned the guys in Honolulu and told them to go to every radio, run a taxi, go to every Radio Shack, and buy every one that they could find. We didn't care how many they come up with, but bring them all. And by God, they did. And if it hadn't been for that, well, we would have just had to wire nut the cables together because we didn't have any fitting. That 6 meter beam brings me up to, I was on Sable Island. We were going to Sable Island. We was in Halifax. our 6 meter beam, long story, didn't show up. So we went to the hardware store and we bought some 1/2 inch PVC, some T connectors, couplings, all the stuff, made us a beam, and then we took wire and tape wire onto the plastic, the PVC for the radiators. So you never know what you're going to run into. It is always something for sure.
Yep.
Have you looked into any of the propagation that you might see from the Virgin Islands?
So I haven't really. I don't know, Andy, have you?
I mean, I've just looked sort of cursory into it. 6 meters. I mean, I live in Florida, so the 6 meter stuff down here is pretty good. I'm also good friends with a few folks that operate stations in like Bonaire and what you call it, the Cayman Islands. So 6 meters propagation into sort of the southern U.S. and then sort of Central and South America should be pretty good, given our location as well. We're going to sort of chase the bands and openings. We are expecting to have pretty good propagation worldwide, but in terms of like the VHF, should be good into the southern U.S., Central and South America.
Good. Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's hope so, because I keep track of 6, and I haven't heard much out of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Joe,
but
you
it depends on the day. You know how 6 meters is. It's the magic band.
So are you guys going to pretty much play radio? It's just the two of you going? This is not a vacation style? And
Yeah, so the point of the trip is radio. I think we reserve the right to go hang out on the beach a little bit here and there.
Sure.
But yeah, we really want to focus on radio. It's definitely more radio than a typical vacation style operation. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yes.
Good for you guys. My God. So what kind of equipment are we taking? We saw the beam, obviously.
Yep. So Tony is running the VHF station and sort of opening into other bands. So he'll be running his, you have a Yaesu, right?
Yeah, an FT991A 100-watt radio. That'll be that'll be connected to 6 meters, and then I'll also have a super antenna for HF that we can move around as we want as kind of the other antenna for that radio. But I intend on keeping that radio on 6 as much as possible.
Okay.
And we'll switch modes as well based on propagation. So that's one of the things we both want to do. Is we both want to do mostly, single sideband, that sort of thing as much as possible. Not so much digital. We'll go digital if things are dead, but and then I also have been pushing to do CW. So if you hear me banging out at like 10 or 15 words a minute, struggling, that's me trying to do CW. We do have FL Digi and a skimmer set up as, if the pileup gets really big, but my goal is to try and make some cues with my, I have a travel set of paddles and all that, and try and bang that out. I'll be running an Yaesu 857D. So I have the tuner for that as well, and that'll be going into a DX commander antenna. So I'll be largely on the HF bands. Looking at club log, it looks like 15 meters, and the WARC bands are the sort of most in demand. Also 40-meter single sideband. So
other than the really low bands, which aren't practical for this, so we won't be focusing on those. But
so we'll be doing that. And then I am bringing, just as a backup, like we're layering backups into this. I'll have my QMXs, and I have a linked NFED. They'll get me from 15 to 40. So that'll be in my carry-on. So should the DX commander not make it, or we have other problems, I know that station works well. I know Tony is planning some backups as well.
Yeah, bringing plenty of wire for whatever we need it. And then also I'll be doing some satellite stuff. So I'll have an arrow antenna. I'll be able to do FM and linear satellites. I'll be on at least a few passes. I don't want to commit to too much there for this one, but we'll do some satellite stuff.
Wow. You guys sound like engineers, because it's like, if I only have one, I have none. And if I have two, I really only have one. So so I hear, man, well done. Wow.
So I'm curious, guys. Why only 3 days? Is that the only time you can get away from work, or?
Yeah, at least I could speak for myself and say this year has been full of a lot of travel for lots of stuff, and just what I could reasonably commit to this trip was only a few days. So
Sure.
Yeah, I actually have plenty of vacation. I'm on the other side of the boat where I have plenty of it saved up, but Tony has the wedding ahead of him, so he's got to save his vacation for that.
Well, I
Yes.
thought maybe with all the traveling he does, he was going to get married and stay home for 2 weeks. Just to change it up. So,
Yeah.
wow. Well, I'm excited for you guys. You're so passionate about this, and I think
Yeah.
it's cool. And your brothers, which is cool, most of the time, I'm sure.
Yep.
Um, so, Joe, what advice you going to give anybody who's starting out on their first DXpedition?
Well, there's two of yous, and you're taking two radios, so that is a blessing because I know, and I think Tony, you had the experience of being on a cruise, and the radio
Yeah.
went out. And I didn't know the guy. I had worked him, but there was a fellow that got on a bush plane in Alaska, goes up to some remote Iota island. The plane drops this guy off, was going to come back in a week and pick him up, and he made one cue and blew the power supply. And so that always told me never go with one radio or one power supply. But you can't take everything back up. I've been on too many, I understand. But uh, yeah, you guys have tested everything that made me feel good. Because if it doesn't work, you'd be surprised how many guys go out and never test anything till they get on the island and then Murphy hits them. So congratulations
Yeah.
on what you're doing. And you're doing the right thing. Take a small little trip and get the word out, get your name out, and then you can get placed on a bigger D expedition, or you be the next leader. And next time you take five guys and or girls. There's some excellent women operators and go out and do your thing and you can be the next big team.
And,
You know,
Andy, if you've got vacation, Bouvet's still looking for a couple operators. So,
I
Yeah.
don't have that much vacation. But
Andy lives in Florida. He will love going to Beauvais.
oh yeah. But I mean, one of the things that's nice looking forward to it is, Tony and I are about 3.5 years apart. And, my wife and he'll soon have a wife, and I have a young daughter as well. But looking at family vacations together where, we can bring the wives on it, go to another island or go somewhere and really do sort of a DX, if we get this down to a science where we know, okay, this is what we need to pack, sort of like what I've done with my QMXs, like it's sort of it's a science point. I think this will be a good shakedown for us to do that. I know Tony has aspirations to go. In particular, he's talked several times about going down to Antarctica. So,
That's
Oh,
a
really?
bucket list. Yeah, bucket list item for me. So, yep.
if you could get your wife licensed, right? The advantage of that is you can say, honey, look at the new radio I bought us.
Yeah, I think that'll be a hard sell for me, but we'll see.
You never
Yeah.
know. You never know.
Yeah.
So Joe's wife is licensed, WHCAA. And
And I've
Janet's
got nice.
operated from the Bahamas and other place, I know. So, or Bermuda, I mean. So, well, Joe,
Yeah,
did I forget anything?
no, these boys did an excellent
Yeah,
job.
you did.
Yeah.
QSL via KK4lWR, I think.
no,
No?
Yeah.
Tony's going to handle them.
Oh,
Yeah,
there it
so
is.
that
Yep.
that was the original release, but we kind of tried to clarify it. Yeah,
Okay.
QSL via my home call. We're planning to do a joint QSL card. So if you contact either of us, you'll get it'll be checked off which one of us you talk to,
Okay.
Or both of us.
or both of us.
Or
Yeah,
both,
but
yeah.
yeah, and then also we'll do Logbook of the World. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll put that in
Um,
the show notes. And
You'll be on.
Go ahead, Joe.
You'll be on 6 meters to 40. Is that correct, Andy?
Yep, that is the plan. We are actually going equipped with band pass. Like Tony and I have done a lot of field day. We're very passionate about field day. So we've learned a lot of the tips and tricks. So we have band pass filters. We're actually borrowing some work band pass filters from a friend. So we'll be able to have hopefully good clean signals and not interfere with each other as we get out on the air. And yeah, the plan is going to be follow the bands from 6 to 40 meters and throw
40.
some plus
Yeah,
some
and
satellite.
and then we might have a way to get on 80 a little bit, but it won't be
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
great. So it probably won't be a focus, but
What
we
I
might pop on there.
What I would say to do, Tony and I both have blogs. It's our callsign.com, so KK4lWR.com and KD8RTT.com. We'll be posting there. We'll probably be cross-posting. And then we're both on Twitter/X, whatever folks call it these days.
Right.
And we have Wi-Fi at the Airbnb, so we will try and be responsive on there and post sort of where we are, what we're doing, so folks sort of know if we're QRT on the beach or if we're, you know, actually on the air or where that I'm sure folks will spot us as well.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
we do plan to be, and if people want skeds, reach out.
Yeah, we'll
We
do
will
our
do our
best.
best. Yep.
Are you
Wow.
do you guys use WhatsApp at all?
So I do.
Yep,
Okay.
I do too. We haven't used it. I haven't used it for radio purposes, but but if there's
Well,
interest.
what I'll do is I'll send you my WhatsApp, and then if you need, if you need like me to get a hold of Joe and say, hey, give a listen on six, or you need to test something, and you probably won't, but if you do, we'll have it. So I'll send that to you after we're done here.
Okay, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
Um,
Thanks.
God, you said something. I thought, oh, I want to ask about that.
I'll be looking forward to working you guys because I'm retired and I don't do nothing but cut grass. Once a while, drink a Bud Light, but I'll keep an eye on the packet cluster for you.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
when you get back, will you participate in the Kansas QSO party?
Yep. So I'll be roving. I'll probably be at. Yes, I'll be at a 1x1 for it, and I'll be out doing probably a county corner one day and probably just a single county the other. But yeah, I'll be out
Yeah.
and about for it.
Yeah, that's the same weekend as the Ohio QSO party. So I always try to
Hmm.
work a bunch of Kansas guys to get those points. And,
Yep. Yep.
and they're all good operators, so it becomes kind of easy to pick a bunch of points up that way.
Yep.
Dang on
Mm.
it, I had a
Definitely.
really good question and it's just absolutely escaped me.
One
Well,
thing that we do also appreciate is if folks have feedback for us at the end of this DXpedition. This is our sort of first time going out there. We've both like during school club roundup and stuff like that, where we've been college stations. We've worked pileups before. We're used to working split. We've done that sort of thing. But if folks have constructive feedback as well, definitely open to receiving that because the next one is only going to get better. And I don't think this is the end of our DXpeditions as far
Mhm.
as Tony and I are
yeah.
concerned. So, if folks have thoughts, things we could do better, suggestions, like I think we're both open to that.
Yeah,
That,
once you
that
guys get down there and get your feet wet and make two or three cues, believe me, you'll be hooked.
that
And
that's
on the
a
flight coming back, Andy will say, "Well, after you get married, a week after you get married, can you take off?"
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's go again.
yep.
How soon can we do it?
I will be curious. I'm going to take you guys up on that. When you get back, I'd love to do a collegiate show, and I don't even want to talk anymore about it now because I got to do some homework, and I think it'd be, and anyone else you think we might add, but you guys are the ARL folks, so that it doesn't get any higher than that. But I'm excited for you. Your passion just gets me excited. That's just great. That is just really, really great. So I know you'll have a good time. And I know you're going to work a lot of folks. And what I'm really curious about is I know Joe, when he comes back, he always says, I can't believe the Japanese guys, the pileups were
Mhm.
just up to my ears, right, Joe?
Yes, yes. I work the gray line. I'm into the gray line, so I like to work uh, the Pacific Rim particularly, but early in the morning and then like right now, this time of day in Ohio, and I just lay into those JAs, and it's just unbelievable the pileups.
And they
But you can
all,
Okay.
also do that, on any band. Yeah, and I just hope 6 meters opens up for you.
I really do. I hope it does
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That'll be a hoot.
Yeah.
I hope all the bands open up for you because it is
Yeah.
fun.
And yeah, I hope
Yeah.
you get to a point. It's like, I could go to the beach for an hour, but I'd miss another 65 views, so I better just stay here.
I mean, 65 Qs an hour would be low compared to my school club roundup days. I was peaking over 120 Qs an
Oh,
hour.
wow. Okay. All
So if
right.
I can get those, like I haven't done that in a while because I haven't been receiving a pileup in a while, but the logging, we built some custom logging software back in the day because college students, and what do you do? And that was one of the things that tracked, and I peaked, I think, at like 135 Qs an hour, which, is a QSO less than every 30 seconds, which
Yeah, that's
I
right.
mean, that's at that point you're working split and you're basically calling people, signal report, next guy sort of thing. But um, Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I also hope that we do get to talk to some folks as well. Like
Hmm.
that's part of the hobby that's fun is, when
Right.
you get those folks that you can have a little bit of a queue with. So maybe later in the evenings as bands calm down or whatever, we get a couple of minutes to chat with someone. That's always fun.
Well, if
Yeah, and I guess the other thing we hadn't mentioned yet, it's in some of the posts, is the meteor scatter QSO party, which is occurring kind of the day we leave. It's a 6 meter, 10 meter. HamSci, if you've heard of it, is putting this on for data collection for some actual research around this. And since it overlaps with us, we're going to be on 10 and 6 doing meteor scatter early morning that last Monday, the 11th, before we leave. So, we're going to do some experimentation while we're there too.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
making it.
I'll pop up their website because it's definitely digital focused. They're looking at MSK 144
Yeah.
during this. But yeah, this is the HamSci QSO party, and there's a lot of students that are part of the collegiate stuff that are part of HamSci, and we want to make sure we support them. But also, this is a bit of a unique area to enter and provide data because there's not a lot of Caribbean stations.
Yeah,
So that we're hoping will be some useful data for them for the event. So
very cool. Um, if you guys are in a pile up, let's talk about operating technique for a minute. Um, do you like guys at tail end? Do you like full calls only, partial calls only? What do you have a preference?
So for me, I think tail ending always made me feel a certain way about kind of sneaking in there. So I'd probably avoid that. The partial call I think could make sense. I'll kind of go for that. Whatever is easiest to hear for me, I'll go for. But I'm not going to be too picky unless people are really trying to abuse it, I think.
Yeah.
the thing I always look for is the people that are operating differently. So if you get the mobile, you get the QRP, or you get like the POTA station, those to me are always good to sort of try and answer if they come through clearly enough in the pileup,
Yeah.
because they're working with things against them. So let them know. And I mean, I've been calling stations as a QRP station sort of thing. So like, I know you might spend 20 or 30 minutes trying to call someone just to make that queue. So if I hear someone being QRP, I tend to try and grab them. If I hear a POTA station, again, I know how hard it is to activate a park. I try to give them a call, that sort of thing. Mobiles are another one.
Hmm.
So those tend to catch my eye. But
Don't you think females catch your eye, Andy?
well, my wife should say, or would probably wish I'd say no to that, but
It's funny because when I had an 857 in the car for about 4 years, and and I have an hour commute, so I would just sit in the car for an hour every morning and night. And what I found out is the really good DXpeditions, they will pause for QRP and they will pause for. So it really, you don't need to go in and slug it out because they will give you an opportunity if you can
Yeah.
stay in there long enough. And
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing if you actually listen to what the DXpedition tells you, you can work them a lot more than if you don't listen.
yep.
So
Yeah.
so that hats off to you guys. Well, you know what you're doing. I'm so impressed.
Mm.
This is gonna be great for you. I'm just excited as I can be.
And
It'll be a good
Yeah.
time.
Bill, this is a good podcast because here we got two young guys, very energetic, going to go down into the Caribbean on a D expedition, and I think a lot of our listeners can pick up from these guys.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think one of the things I've tried to really do with this is it doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't need a ton of really expensive specialized equipment. None of our antennas are crazy. We're not putting up big towers or so. Yeah, we're trying to do it in a modest way from a logistical sense, and I think it's pretty approachable for a lot of people. Um, Even if you're just bringing one radio, it's more casual operation wise. You can do this. For some places, getting the license can be difficult, but a lot of the Caribbean islands, it hasn't. We've also done the Bahamas, smaller type things. But we've gotten Bahamian licenses before. That was super easy. So, yeah, that would be my advice to people thinking about this. Is it doesn't have to be that hard.
Very
No,
cool.
I like the
Yeah.
Bahamas. I've been there probably 30 times on D expeditions. And it's easy to get to. It's relatively cheap. They're beautiful, safe islands. I normally stay away from the big cities. That's not my thing because I want to play radio.
Yeah.
And so many times I'll have a fan dipole, three bands, and I have a hook that I just hook it into the gutter of the house. So it's only 8 feet in the air.
Hmm.
And I've worked around the world on 6, 10, 12, whatever my fan is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do with a piece of wire.
We actually considered the Bahamas when we were looking at places to go. Like I said, like Tony said, we've both been there, so we knew how to get the license and that sort of thing. But it is also like a bit more touristy, and the logistics of getting there aren't really any easier.
Okay.
Um, we looked at Bimini, and taking the
Yep,
ferry over to Bimini.
yep,
We looked at going into Nassau or Freeport. But those are very touristy, and they have a
yeah,
lot of, a lot of the infrastructure there is around like beach resorts and stuff. So I mean, we did look there as well. We looked at a couple others. We went down the club log list of like what we thought was reasonably accessible, um, and
But still
doable.
desirable
Right.
Yeah.
for
yeah,
other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and we were actually looking at one that was much higher on the club log list, but there was a group of Germans that went down there earlier this year
Oh,
and spent like 12 days in the British Virgin Islands and made a bunch of queues. So we then sort
sure.
of pick and chose our strategy based on what they didn't do or what they didn't do a lot of. So like they did a lot of digital, which is partly why we're trying to stay away from digital, is give those
Yeah.
single
Try to
sideband CW.
fill in those desirable bands and modes that haven't seen a lot of activity in the last decade.
Well,
Sure. Good thinking.
if you
Yes.
notice, there's a lot of announcements about the expeditions, and they'll say they'll be stressing the human modes, right? That's what they keep saying now, instead of just, CW inside, they'll just say the human mode. So it's interesting. It's an interesting struggle. So I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
how it all
Yeah.
play out, but I know Joe's wife keeps looking for islands that don't have a reciprocal operating agreement. Now I know why. She wants him to just go and not play radio, and that's not going to happen.
My daughter got married 10 years ago on Exuma Island in the Bahamas.
Yep.
And I've been there, I think 14, 15 times now, because we went down there pre-planning the wedding. And my whole family's down there now but me. I said, no, I've been there so many times, I'm just going to stay home and cut grass. So, yeah. And they can't believe that I didn't go, but I got tired of, and I always take amplifier.
Hmm.
You know, I want to put
He
out
wants
a
to be
signal.
heard.
The
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want
problem
to
with
be,
the problem with the amplifiers, it doesn't tend to do terribly well in terms of the weight of your luggage. It's
yeah,
pretty much going to be the full weight of that luggage.
yeah,
So I do have a 500-watt amp, and it did like cross my mind for about a half a second. Like we
yeah,
could bring that and do pretty well, and then it was like, oh, but that's gonna weigh down.
yeah.
Did
And
you
then you got
happen
to
to?
pay in the Bahamas. I got a KPA 500, and usually I got to pay $400 collateral, and they give you the money when you go back. They just
Yeah.
want to be sure you take it back. And I have all my documentations where I tell them I'm bringing it in, here's the serial numbers, and I'm taking it home. But on that amplifier, for some reason, they always wanted $400. So I'm always prepared to give it to them, and they've always given it back.
So
So
that new Flex that weighs about 35 or 40 pounds that has 500 watts, that'll be really interesting to watch.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because that would fit exactly what you guys are talking about.
Oh,
So
that'd be perfect.
Yep.
yeah, that
Yep.
would really be
That
good.
Yes.
would be perfect.
Yeah. Maybe we should go for a sponsorship next DXpedition.
You know what my friend Joe tells me? It can't hurt to ask. You just call
Uh,
DX Engineering and say, "Hey, we grew up in that area up there, and here's what we need." And he
Yeah.
very well, knowing him, he very well could fix you up. So, guys, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. What a hoot!
yes.
And boy, we really wish you a lot of luck. And I hope you will get back with us when you get back. I'll hit you up. So when is the magic date? It's in October something or other.
Yep. So I'm getting married in October,
Okay,
October 11th.
so
Yep.
so perhaps sometime in September we might be able to get together and same
Yep.
format. We'll do a recap, but then I really want to jump into this collegiate stuff. That's really interesting to me. And I think
Yeah.
maybe that's a place our club could do some damage, Joe. I mean, we're always looking to educate and help out. So maybe I don't know, we'll have to look at it. Because with Southwest Ohio is a big club, but right now we don't really have anything that we're all sinking our teeth into. So maybe that's a program we could look at and see how we could help, locally in this area and then go from there.
Sure.
Well, one of
Sure.
the easiest ways for the community to help, and I'll plug it now and we'll plug it then,
Okay.
is to get active on the Collegiate CUSO party. There will be colleges out there. Many of them will be first-time operators just getting into the hobby. And it's, basically a, 48-hour event. It's a, Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon it ends sort of thing. And it is a great way if they have people hunting them because it draws some attention. If you think back to the first time you worked a pileup on a DXpedition, for some of these students, this might be their first time getting to work a pileup, and that energy and that excitement, but also being a forgiving operator, knowing that these are not professional contesters, these are not DXers, these are kids just getting started in the hobby. But if I could recommend anything, if you hear a college station on the air, if you hear W4DFU, W0 Triple E, something like that. If you hear any of those schools, what was it? Yale, I forget Yale's call off the top of my head now. But yeah, there's a lot of great collegiate clubs out there. W8EDU up at Case, up in Ohio. If you hear those schools on the air and they're calling CQ, like respond to them. That is the best way to help the program.
And what's the dates of that?
So the Collegiate CUSO party is the first weekend, so the weekend before Tony gets married in October.
First weekend in October.
Yes. Ironically, that's the weekend of my daughter's birthday. So it's a very busy start to the month of October.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
But luckily, we're not the focus of that one. We're the coordinators, organizers. So we get on the air a bit, but
we check logs and that sort of thing. But
we'll definitely get you on before then so that we can kind of hype that for you a little bit. That'd be great. In fact, I'd like to put a challenge out to our club, Joe, and maybe offer a plaque or somebody, whoever can, get the most points in the collegiate.
Well, like so many clubs, we have older members, and hell, I'm one of the oldest, but it's hard to get these guys and girls motivated.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have your Spark Gap DXCC certificate close by there, Joe?
I'm old, but I'm not that old.
All right. All right, guys. Well, good luck to you and safe travels, and we'll look for you definitely on the air and get some spots out and see if we can fill some band slots with British Virgin Islands this year for the DX Marathon, and off we go.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time. And I know you're on a short leash, so I was really glad you could say yes. Here's a night.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we can do it. So.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because I'm going on a cruise. That's partly what made this short. Is I go on a cruise. Ironically enough, going to Tortola about a week before this DXpedition.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll be in the Caribbean, come back for 3 days, and then fly back to the Caribbean. So
holy
that's
smokes.
good. Good for you.
Rough life.
Yeah, what a good time.
I joke that I should just throw the radio off the ship and be like, okay, I dropped everything there for us, Tony. It's ready when we arrive.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Joe, who did we talk to? Somebody on our podcast told a story about in the 60s, they wanted to go on a DXpedition, but they couldn't get to the Caribbean. So they wrote a letter to the head of the Coast Guard. And he happened to be a ham. Remember that? It was the guy that was on with W1JR, I think.
Oh, really, Jim?
Yeah. And he got a letter back saying, yeah, you can hop on. So he shows up down there and literally leaving his high school prom. They drive down, him and another guy drive down. They get there and these officers are like, what are you doing? You can't get on this boat. Yes, I can. Here's a letter from the head of the Coast Guard. And now when they get off, they're like, okay, you're on your own. Do whatever you got to do with your equipment. Well, they left it in Cuba. So you talk about, we could go back now regularly and operate in Cuba because my equipment's there. So it's, what you're saying is not that far-fetched,
Yeah.
So we had a club member, Ken, K2KW, Ken Silverman, and he went to the Bahamas all the time for contests, and they would take the antennas and everything and put them under the house because they rented the same place every time. And they put everything under the house. I was never that smart. I pack everything in and out, and did that for years and years and years. Yeah.
So it works. It can be done.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much.
Right.
I'll be in touch, but good luck to you and safe travels, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
For any of your listeners, have them follow us on Twitter. It's our call signs,
Okay.
and that'll be the best way to sort of stay up to date. Or check our websites. I already have a set of posts going. I know Tony has some planned.
Okay.
They're sort of talk about how we plan this and what our activities are, so folks can
Yeah.
sort of stay in real time with us as we attempt to do this.
Okay, and I'll make sure that's in the show notes, and that'll go out in 2 weeks, so it'll be well before you're on the air. So
Thanks a lot, guys. Have
All
a
right.
safe trip.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you. Thank
We're
you.
excited for you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I hope you found that as much fun as I did. I enjoyed really meeting those guys, and I honestly look forward to having the next one on the whole ham radio collegiate campaign. That's going to be a hoot. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the DX Mentor. I would also like to thank our sponsors, ICOM America, the Daily DX, DX Engineering, and the Southwest Ohio DX Association. You won't find anyone more committed to DX than these sponsors. I would like to thank our guests today. Andy, KK4lWR, Tony, KD8RTT, and Joe, W8GEX. I would love to have your feedback, answer your questions, and provide help with any DX or amateur radio issues that you may have. If you need clarification on something or you just have a question, email me at thedxmentor@gmail.com. I would especially like to thank you, our listeners and viewers. Without you, there would be no reason to do this. Please drop me a line if you've achieved an all-time new one, received recognition, or you have a DX event you would like us to mention. We would be happy to do that. If you're enjoying these DX Mentor episodes, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to follow to get updates on future YouTube and podcast episodes, as well as DX events and DXpeditions, as I mentioned, join the DX Mentor Facebook group. 7-3 for this episode, and thanks to my ex-whale Karen for her love and support. I hope to see you in the pileup.